And the microphone along, bringing in the morning time to rise and shine. Open up your eyes to awaken your mind. Need to make the day count, need to get in the zone. Tune in, the two ball guys and the microphone. Introducing Coach Papa Tim Stewart's his name. Pay attention to his wisdom, it'll raise your game. He wants to see a better world, so he plays his part. Always loving, always giving, cause he's got a big heart. The co-host won't boast, but he can stand on his own. From the state of Iowa, it's that man Kent Jones. He's impressive on the mic and he don't need a cord. And whether hosting or he's hooping, he's controlling the boards. And the one feeding a hungry herd of Americans, make you feel right at home like he's your best friend. Though he's not a city slicker, he's as cool as the fun. Just a witty wisdom giver, Mr. Rancher Run. Set the tone for your day and get in the zone. Tune in to
Two bald guys and a microphone.
Good morning and welcome to Two Bald Guys and a Microphone. We're live in studio this morning from high atop the Tunyon Brothers building. It's a beautiful Monday morning out there. A little mist, a little drizzle.
Keep going. I'm gonna have to play
Snow on the
other
way. We've got some technical issues launching off this morning, so thank you for checking in early, coming with us this weekend. As we always talk about what happened coming in this weekend, we had the opportunity to go to the Milwaukee Bucks Stadium and watch my grandson, who's a junior at Wilmot High School, play against Bradford Kenosha. And the expectations against Bradford teams are always pretty high. They're always a pretty talented team.
Yes.
We're going well right from the get-go. We took an early 6-1 lead, and they never looked back. Wound up winning the game by over 27 points. And the experience for the boys to get out and play on a professional court was you could just see that they were in their heaven. Bradford, on the other hand, they came in. I think they were a little overwhelmed by the professional court. And
It's a little bit bigger.
It's a little bit bigger, but they just on this particular day were an undisciplined team. They were each trying to make their individual plays, to make the highlight reel, and Wilmot just worked together very well.
Yeah.
They probably had 18, 20 assists on the game.
Well, sometimes you get those. It's the dream, right? And you
Right.
think you're in the NBA. Instead of playing as a team, you end up, rolling it out, trying to be Michael Jordan. They don't probably know who Michael Jordan is.
He was this guy in the 80s.
80s, 90s, right?
So, but a great weekend. My wife went shopping for her wedding dress. She's already married, but her
Right.
dress for our granddaughter's wedding. And then in the meantime, I had to go to White Deer Run and look at the facilities where I'm speaking on Tuesday. And I got to the facilities, and it was interesting. They had another event going on, so the events manager was not available. So I was able to walk around and check it out. Then I thought, I think April's shopping around here somewhere. So I went on, find my iPhone, and she was 2.6 miles away. So I went and crashed their wedding shopping.
There you go.
So and then we went Saturday night. We went to the memorial for a very close friend of mine, Steve Clements. Actually worked right across the hall from us here. Died of a heart attack a week and a half ago, and just a really, really good guy. And it was a really touching and impressive memorial service. It was very well done.
Yeah.
So.
Good guy. Yeah, I did. I had very few words with him, but a pretty good guy from what I know.
They said, you could always count on three things with Steve. If you're talking to him, you'd hear about the Bears, the Cubs, and the gospel.
There you go.
And it was very true.
That's it. Great weekend as DDOE, the parent company of 216Net, had their annual meeting. So it was great to get with the board members and people and just spend Sunday with him. It was fun. Some good things, some exciting things. Speaking of exciting things, if you have Twitter, we are out on Twitter at studios_216. So like, follow, subscribe with us out there on Twitter. We're live now out there. So studios_216 is our Twitter. So watch out for good things there. Watch out for a lot of shows, comments, things like that. The other thing is, if you're just tuning in now, you can also catch us live on Apple Radio. Or Apple Music, not Apple Radio, excuse me. So if you go out to Apple Music and you punch in 216 the net, you will find our station. You can listen live through your Apple Music all day long, along with TuneIn. So if you have the TuneIn app, star us as one of your favorites, 216, and you can carry us with you in your pocket, on your phone, anywhere that you listen to any good music, podcasts, anything like that. So we're real excited, which pushes us up over the 30 plus million listenership, which is really cool. So for everybody's support out there, if you're not doing anything just yet, go ahead and like, subscribe, share all of our platforms. We absolutely love it. We've been talking about this month, traditions today, personal traditions on a day-to-day basis. Got any personal traditions on a daily tradition?
I wake up.
That's a good tradition.
It is a good tradition. I wake up and early in the morning, one of the things they brought out when they're talking about Steve at his memorial is every morning he got up and the first hour of his day was spent with the Lord. And I try to do that. I'm not nearly as good as I should, would, or could be. But it is, one of the daily traditions, at least get a Bible verse in, get a positive quote under my belt that I want to focus on that day, and then move forward on the day. In that vein. But you know my life, it's a yo-yo. I'm all over the place, and we have currently I have a commitment every 4 days a week to make the trip to Alexian Brothers and Hoffman Estates with my grandson. So that's been it interrupted a few things, but at the same time it opened up. I have hands-free capability in my car, so I'm able to get in some phone calls. I've been able to reconnect with people lately. I guess one daily tradition I have is I go out and I go onto Facebook and I check to see whose birthdays it is. And then I either call them, leave them a message on Facebook Messenger. If they're in my actual contact list, I call them directly instead of just leaving a like or a happy birthday. I have an actual conversation with them on the birthday to wish them happy birthday. And that is that always starts my day off good, because no one turns down a birthday message.
Yeah. My tradition for birthdays like that is if I haven't had a conversation verbal with you that year, I don't do anything. Because if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't know it was your birthday anyway. And nothing says, oh, hey.
I see how you are.
Right. If I know you and we've had a verbal conversation, I'll probably shoot you a text. I won't go on and I won't do it. My tradition is I will not do it on social media.
Yeah, I don't.
I will not. But a tradition of mine is if we haven't talked, then I'm not going to wish you happy birthday, because if we hadn't talked, I'd never know it was your birthday anyway.
Maybe you would have.
No,
I might have told you.
Probably not. I mean, my best friend growing up, Kent Timmerman. Of course, I know his, so I've always just shot him a text, but I shoot him a text, right? I haven't necessarily had a verbal conversation.
The hard thing about getting older, my best friend growing up, his name was Bruce Crosby. We were neighbor farmers, and as we grew up, we were either playing at each other's house, and later on, we were either farming at each other's house and working together. But he's currently the editor of the McCook, Nebraska newspaper, and I called him on FaceTime and woke him up at 8:30 in the morning. And I'm like, what are you doing sleeping? Oh, So, but we talked for 45 minutes. So
Yeah, a tradition that I started this year when I wake up is I stretch. So I do a few simple stretches to stretch, I like the so every morning, yeah, before I move, that's what I do. I get up and do that. Yeah, Shayna, absolutely. Good morning. And again, I'm not on camera. One of our screens is acting a little bit funny today, so to be able to see and interact with your comments, I'm stuck here in the producer's booth. But Shayna says, and then there is the obligatory thank you for the birthday wishes the next day to the mass group you haven't talked to. I know, right? I love that too. And you know what? Here's and I'm going to roll on that. You've forgotten the day was busy. You see that, and does it make you feel bad? Like, oh man, I missed Jim's birthday. Haven't spoken to Jim in 30 years, but they'll, hey, to everyone who did, thanks so much. You know, and you can tell there are people who feel absolutely horrible about that because why? Because they end up they end up oh hey, sorry I missed it. Hey, happy birthday, day late. You know, so it's very very funny. Yeah, I think that social media is out there to make people feel bad. That's just my. We enjoy you jumping in here with us because that's what two
bald guys and a microphone
is meant to do is to start your day in a positive way. But for most of social media, I think
well, social media is like anything else. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And however you choose to use or abuse it, that's up to you. I don't follow anything on Facebook. And I definitely, you and I used to talk when it first came out, how political stuff would drive you nuts on Facebook. And when you stopped interacting with that, I noticed a definite difference in you and your character, because you get in the car so pissed off some mornings. I can't believe.
I would. Shannon says, I've been coming down hard on the Christmas letters types too. Maybe I'm just grabbing. No, people ask me, we've got some friends who still do it. And the Christmas letters, again, are social media old school. Hey, Shayna here, let me just brag about my son and what my son's done and my daughter. And let me tell you how good my other kid is and my dog. Let me show you a couple pictures of my dog and how happy life is right here at 216 The Net. You know? And you're like, oh, that's great. That's great. That's great.
And then read between the lines. They admitted the bankruptcy, their car getting repossessed, their child getting COVID.
The husband cheating on the wife.
Dear friends, my husband is not in the picture any longer because.
So it's that is the Christmas letters is social media before social media is there, And boy, did that cause a lot of stress back in the day, right? Hey, have you written that yet? Have you gotten the letter done?
Do you remember a few years ago there was a whatever you call them, a scam going around that was saying that the U.S. Post Office is going to start charging 5 cents an email because they're losing postage. And how people got up in arms. Oh, they can't charge us for email.
Right. Oh, yeah. So that's just, to me, that's funny. But that's good stuff. Nonetheless, it's good stuff. So, yeah, so there are, have you met the guy who always wins at the casino? That's right.
Always broke, but he always wins.
Another tradition that I have started, and I've held on to it now for a couple of years, is Sunday mornings. I will wake up, and I get up at 5. I'm one of those early risers every day. It doesn't matter what day. And I get up and I make a cup of coffee, and then I watch a couple of episodes of Barnwood Builders. Just these guys who tear down old antique log cabins and rebuild them, refurbish them. really kind of cool. And then I head out to the wood shop and spend time working, with wood or whatever the case may be, tinkering or just go outside and work in the yard. I'm known as the guy in the neighborhood who's always working on something or working in the yard, and that's my zen. So I've created a tradition. It was a hard tradition to create too, because for a long time, growing up, a pastor's kid, growing up in church, Sunday mornings were meant for church, until I realized that, well, I was going to church. Now I will listen to the Hour of Faith here from Fellowship of Faith on 21.6 The Net in my earbuds or on my radio in the shop. So I am spending that time, but it took me a long time to break the habit of saying you have to be in church on Sunday and feeling guilty if I didn't go. And that was very freeing. But yeah, my new tradition is to hang out and be with nature, be with God that way on Sunday mornings.
Well, your life is the other 6 days of the week is so all over the place. But between the radio station and your full time gig, and not to mention throwing a little bit of coaching in there, and that's the life I've led for so long. We just finished our 6th grade boys basketball season, and we had our awards banquet the day after the season ended, which was brilliant. I've never, in 45 years, I've never done that. There's always the last game of the season and then this period of time, and then you got to go back in for one more time and tell all the parents how wonderful their children are. And to have it the next day, and then the way coach of this team, and she decided that we were going to have a game day. So we played knockout and 3-point shooting contests and played some 5-on-5 with the when the parents got there, with the parents and the kids, and then went in, had pizza, and passed out award certificates. And it was it was a beautiful time. And I talked just for a couple of seconds, and I said, you never know at this point when the last day of the season is going to be your last day coaching. Mm-hmm. It's just like Steve across the hall. He didn't know when he came to work that day it was going to be his last day. And I'm not saying I have any premonitions about dying or anything. I plan on being back on the court next year, and got some really good things coming up. But it's still, there's that little bit of nostalgia when you look back at the court and all the different athletes you've coached over the years, and how different yet how similar they are. I know you talk about traditions in basketball coaching. After the first couple of practices, the kids, build these traditions of, how they interact with each other, what drills were to do. And you watch those traditions, and the teams I've had that didn't have that bond, they didn't connect. And the teams that had that strong bond of tradition really did.
Well, I tell you what, Shayna says 216 has become somewhat of a weekly tradition for me.
Nice.
Shayna, send me an email at 216thenet@gmail.com with your address and your shirt size, and we're going to throw you out a T-shirt because, hey, you are awesome. And you know what? We have appreciated you, your input, your friendship. You're as much as this 216 The Net family as anybody else. Absolutely love you for that.
Yeah, I'm flying blind over here because we normally have a display we watch that has all the comments, and today that display isn't working, so I don't get to see. So Kent's got all the comments in front of him this morning, but
it's kind of become a tradition for me as well.
For us,
I don't think there's the word tradition carries such a different feel than habit. Habits seem dirty. Habits seem bad, and the word tradition is like it's a good warm feeling.
Or patterns, but tradition. Right. Tradition does have a good connotation. I mean, you think of your Thanksgiving traditions with your family, your Christmas traditions, with your family. We've been the last few years either Thanksgiving or Christmas, we traveled to Dallas and spend one of the 2 holidays with our son down there and the others with our children up here. And it's gotten, this year's a little bit different because of some testing I have to go through from, they found some blockage in a carotid artery, and I've got to, have that rotor-rooted, and but the other tests that they have to do has really stopped us from traveling. So Thanksgiving and Christmas are both spent here this year, and it's been a long time since that's happened.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one of our family traditions this time of year is we always go to the Gurney Mills Mall. Now we've been doing that for 20 plus years
since
right?
it just showed up.
And that mall used to be buzzing. Used to have every major department store. I mean, this was Gurney Mill. It was outlet store, then it just turned to Gurney Mills, and it was an amazing place to be. Buzzing, packing. I mean, so many people there, and it was just so huge. If you remember the first time, you're like, it just keeps going. And so we ran out there on Saturday, Alice, Lucy, and I, for our traditional, walk around the mall. And as I'm walking around this mall, I don't know if you've been there for a while, but the whole mall now is like the pop-up ads on your phone on social media. It's like Jim's Shoes, Betty's Nails,
Yeah.
You go there, you're just like, what happened to this place? And that is the difference in the way life is and why some traditions stop. Right? We're going through there. Of course, we spend money. We got good deals, but you can get the stores. It's no longer like oh man, and we did eat at the Rainforest Cafe, which was always fun. But I think some traditions stop because the world creates them to stop. Not necessarily your life or anything like that, but it's just like the world of retail has changed so much that it's all online. That
one of the things I was reading on the interruptions of the pandemic that happened was family get-togethers. And family get-togethers stopped for a couple of years, family reunions and whatnot. And this year, that they have exploded. The travel industry has exploded with family reunions and people getting together, sometimes 2 or 3, taking whole families on cruises. And it's interesting because we've been planning our 50th for a while. We're still 3 years out from our 50th wedding anniversary, but it's a big one. We want to make something cool.
Make it happen. So
we're looking at doing that, to bringing all of our children and stuff to a resort somewhere. So if you want to send donations, we'll be setting up a GoFundMe account for that. But I'm kidding. There's no GoFundMe account.
But if you want to send donations,
I'll take donations. Yeah. And it's it's a non-for-profit, not on purpose, but it's
So Shayna asks, it's kind of a topic swerve, but not really. She says, have you ever been in a position to mandatory report sketchy or abusive situations with the kids? Coaches see most of that. So some of traditions in some people's house is child abuse. Some traditions is neglect. Some of those are that have been passed down through the generations, right? And that's just unfortunately the way it is. Some families.
Shayna, I've coached over 45 years, and yes, over the years I've experienced. I've had 4 athletes over those years commit suicide. I've had. I haven't recorded the number of DCFS reportings I've had to make, but I have had to make several over the years in conversations. It's like, is it good? Is it sad? Is it bad? I think I'm blessed to have been in the position to be able to do that. But
she says, "Wow."
Yeah, it's
well, yeah. Those are sometimes we have to break tradition. As I said, the world sometimes forces you to break tradition. Now, in a lot of cases, that kind of physical abuse, mental abuse that's the way my dad treated me. That's the way his dad treated him. That's the way my mom. It's not. I'm not just throwing it on the male end of fathers or whatever. But yes, that is sometimes, and sometimes you have to help people break those traditions by saying, "Hey, you don't have to cut the butt off of the ham anymore." You know, and it is tough. I mean, the good news is if you do it correctly, I mean, they don't know who did, you know, and it is, but the conversations with the athletes, with the kids, with those students, that's always the tougher part, and that's very very early in my career when I was young, in my 20s, and I was coaching. We called a timeout, and this young lady comes off the court, and I just kind of grab the back of her elbow, as I'm talking to her, right? And a great coach, and still a very very good friend, Marty Hammond. Marty
I know Marty
very well. After the game, he pulls me aside. He says, "Listen," he says, he goes, I know you didn't do anything, but don't touch your athletes that way, because you don't know what's happening at home,
right?
And that may trigger something. And I was like, huh, because when we grew up, and again, men's sports are probably a little bit different, but since then I've always just fist bumped and
right.
Bonk them on the head, whatever. But
one of the things over the years, and there was a period of time where, as the pendulum swings, we would get the preseason, don't touch them, don't look at them funny, don't raise your voice, and there was this particular year, things had gotten bad, and the kids have always gravitated towards me, and I learned a long time ago if a kid, an athlete, middle school, high school, if they come up and they initiate a hug and they like a hug, you give them an athlete hug, right? But then this year it was like, none of that, no more of that ever. And I was like, okay, never. And so I really distanced myself from the athletes, and it was hard. It was very hard. Mm-hmm. Coming into the conference track meet, this girl, Sarah was she was a half miler and a miler, but she loved the hurdles. So all year I let her run the hurdles. She never placed in the hurdles, but as long as she'd run either the half mile or the mile, she could run the hurdles. And we're coming into the conference track meet, and I'm like, Sarah, if you run the half mile, we win the track meet. I mean, I've done all the numbers. If everybody does just what they're supposed to do, and you run the half mile, we'll win the track meet. She's like, okay, coach, I'll do it. And I said, I need you to place third. Now, this girl from Lakeland, I knew she'd be first. Our girl, Rita Murata, I knew she'd be second. I mean, every time we competed, it was that way. And Sarah, her times and her strength would place her in third. And if she gets that third place and everything else falls into place, we win the track meet. So we get out, and I said, Sarah, you got to come in third. So she goes out and she pushes hard the first lap of the 800, and she's running in third place. And this girl from Lakeland, she went on to national records in college. She was just phenomenal, And she comes around the 200 left. She's probably 15, 20 yards in front of Rita, and Rita's holding her own. And then Sarah is next. But this girl from Northwood passed Sarah at the 200, and Sarah's head went down. And whenever Sarah's head went down, it was over. But then around 180 yards left, you saw her head come up, and she realized that coach said she had to have third. And she put on a finish I've never seen from her before or after that. And she passed the girl about maybe 5 yards in front of the line and finished third place. But I noticed as she was about 30 yards away, the color was draining out of her face. And I was on the other side of the chain link fence, and I jumped over the fence, and I got there, and she crossed the finish line, and she's ready to burn into the track. I mean, she's got nothing left. And I got in front of her, and she just kind of like dove into my arms, and she's holding on me, and I'm holding there. And there was this moment in my mind that I'm looking around. Is there a photographer someplace? Is there, is it somebody going to say,
Right.
this coach is handling his children? And it just froze. And then I said, screw that. This is her moment,
Yeah.
and I gave her that hug, and I just held her. And I mean, it was 30, 45 seconds before she could stand on her own feet.
Sure.
And it was just that moment. I thought, you know what? I'm not that guy.
Well, yeah, and
And
tradition, right? Tradition is this is who I am. This is
right.
my coach. But as I said, the world sometimes breaks that tradition, and the world now has made you second guess who you are, how you are, and has made you adjust some things. Those are not bad traditions, but I also don't think they're necessarily bad traditions to break.
Right.
Right? Because it is a strange world, but it's that moment of man, man. All I want to do is, this is how I rejoice. This is how I share, right?
Yeah.
And you can't, and it's tough that moment the world takes away that tradition of yours to because of the uncomfortableness of some, you know.
Very
And it's
good
tough.
friend of mine from Crystal Lake was accused of sexual something with a
Mhm.
teenager, and it was front page news.
Mhm.
Well, turned out through the investigation that he had failed this student in class, and she made this whole thing up to damage his reputation. And he was fully cleared of any wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And it was on the fourth page in the bottom paragraph, and nobody knew that he was cleared. So his name stayed smeared forever, even though he did nothing wrong.
Listen, we forgot to give our good friends at Natural Therapy Wellness Center a shout out this morning. We can't do this job without the support of our good friend over there, John at Natural Therapy Wellness Center. Check them out at www.mchenrymassage.com, 815-385-8190. You want a new tradition? Take yourself there and get in a massage. Monthly is a great monthly tradition. You will thank yourself. John and his staff here have just an incredible, they're all licensed massage therapists. Okay. So they're going to talk to you. They're going to find out they can deep tissue massage. They can acupuncture, Thai yoga. They can hot rocket. I guess hot stones. I don't know what it's called. But man, you want to start spoiling yourself in 2023? Start today. Call our good friends over at Natural Therapy Wellness Center, 815-385-8190, and they will take care of you. Hey, Instructor Speraza.
Hey, John, good morning.
At the cabin in the UP, sir, coming in sporadic. We'll try again as I travel south. What part of the UP are you up in?
The Uper?
Yeah, well, I've got family up in the UP, of course. We've had the USASA Olympians, a couple of them from the UP too. So yeah, it's good. Hopefully, there's just a slice of heaven. They probably got some good snow up there.
Yeah, let me know when you're back in town, John. We need to definitely get together.
As we're talking about traditions, and we're talking about daily personal traditions. Here's a tradition that has gone by the wayside as a family tradition for a lot of families. Saying grace before a meal.
Always have done it in our family. Our children and their families don't necessarily do it, but when they're with us, they say grace. And the funny thing is, they love to say grace with Nana and Papa, and the 12-year-old down in Dallas, Ella, she likes to make it look like we do this all the time.
Sure.
But it is, you're correct. It is one of the, blessed taters, blessed to eat, bless our family, let's eat.
Yeah, so I've noticed a lot of families, even my family, we used to do it all the time. Now we just, Now we, because we're in a hurry or whatever, or you're getting in and you want to eat before midnight or whatever. And a lot of times, I mean, our family still sits down as a family every night, but it's just, we're popping in and out between here or there, and we got to go. And we've just kind of cut out that, you know, that piece, that 2 seconds or whatever. I just try to take 30 seconds, but
Yeah,
we
it's
just
April and I even, whenever we're out to eat, it's always been a connection for us and the Lord ever since we got married. So that's one tradition I don't see us breaking anytime soon.
Mhm.
So,
The tradition of you know of that. I mean, it's kind of that deep breath before meditation, before yoga, before weightlifting or whatever. Kind of that centering moment before you eat, and it's truly about being grateful. I don't know if it's about blessing things. We
Yeah.
can all bless things, but I think it's more about being grateful and taking that deep breath. Go, man, I'm very grateful to be able to eat this, to be in this position, and that's okay. And but if you see it done, people, you know,
Dad would quite often sneak a bite before prayers, and Mom would say, "Hey, Jane," he'd say, "just making sure it's worth praying over."
that's right, that's right. Which is a funny thing. And that's just a simple kind of daily tradition that has been broken, especially in my house. Not that we're not believers. Not it's just like it's just kind of.
Well, and the pandemic has kind of been a tradition breaker
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
I mean, people have realized, oh, I can watch church online. I can listen to it. I don't need to. You mentioned that
Yeah.
yourself. And that connection, the daily connection with the Lord, I think is so important to us. But sometimes, when two or more are gathered together, it's
Mhm.
good
Mhm.
to get together with other
Sure.
believers as well. When we retired from professional coaching, I joined our youth group at our church. So now every Wednesday night, I'm part of the youth group at Holy Apostles, and seeing these kids. There's 3 young men in particular. They're football players that I've connected with, and the other night they were arm wrestling, and then they're big boys. I'm like, well, I suppose I should try this. And the biggest one of all says, "Come on, coach." And I'm like, okay. And he went to push, and I'm just sitting there, and he's looking at my hand, not moving, and he's just staring at it. And he's like, his face is starting to crinkle up. And then I just kind of slowly went boom, and his eyes got about this big. And he's like, "I thought you were old." I'm like, old, not dead.
That's right. That's right. Shayna says grace before meals takes on an interesting role when you think of the intention and the in the moment ritual. It bugs me when people make a big display when in public. We call it pimping out the Lord. So true. Yeah, and we can pull scripture out. I'm not going to do that. You can do that on questions you never thought you could ask in church. But yeah, they're doing it just for that reason.
Yeah, that's
And I always love to think that God, if God had a head, is up there just shaking their head like, I appreciate what you're doing, but geez. You're not doing it for this. You're doing it for yourselves. Absolutely. And I love you're at Chili's or whatever, and they're doing it, and it just keeps going on and on and on.
yeah, that's
Being in that piece too is always something as well. It's like, oh yeah.
I was the maintenance services supervisor over at Morton and Ringwood a number of years ago, and I had a salesman come in, and my headaches had just started, and I really didn't know much about them outside of the fact that I had this pain in my head that they couldn't control. And this one salesman came in, and I met them always in the conference room up by the front office because we didn't bring them back into the plant unless they were, had a specific need. And we're in there, and I'm kind of wincing as he's talking to me, and he goes, what's going on? I'm like, oh man, I get these headaches, and I happen to have one right now. Doesn't ask me, doesn't do anything, reaches across the table, grabs my hands, and starts praying. And I mean, and he's just like, and Lord, bind these headaches. And the plant manager walks by, and he's like, fire and brimstone praying over me. And I'm like, can I have my hands back? I love you. I love the Lord, but this isn't quite appropriate. And Sid, after the guy left, Sid's like, what was that? I said, Sid, asked me, I told him I had a headache, and he just, the Lord moved him, and he started praying. He says,
so any other daily or weekly traditions that you do, good tradition or bad tradition, one that you decide to keep, when you decide to let go, and how important are traditions when it comes to a psyche?
Well, I think exercise for me has always been one. I have a workout room downstairs with a bunch of elastic bands that if I don't make it to the gym, I don't do anything. I can at least get my workout. So daily tradition for me has always been, keeping my muscle tone, keeping my strength up. But more importantly, it's just that that silence. It's a time when I don't think about everything else that's going out in the world. I focus on, my hand position and my reps and that. But daily I do that. I try to get to the gym a couple of times a week and go through the program. But exercise is important to me.
Yeah. So is that a daily exercise? Is it weekly? Is it?
No, exercise daily. I do mostly stretching, like you talked about. I have an entire stretching set of TRX bands that I use to go through all my stretches. But upper body strength was a weakness over the years. So, that's something I've gotten control of. My knees have, my squats and other exercises, my left knee needs to be replaced here before I can continue those with any efficiency.
You're like a car wreck.
Yeah, I'm falling apart.
Yeah. Shannon says, my mother used to say they don't call the family obligations for nothing. Obligations are tradition.
There's some truth to that.
Yeah, like what would a family obligation be?
Well, just like this current situation where transportation has been an issue for my daughter, and as she got divorced, she didn't have a spouse working with her to make sure the kids got to their practices and everything. So one of the obligations we fall, including this daily trip to Hoffman Estates now, it's just one of the obligations to make sure that everyone is where they're supposed to be.
So is that obligation or enabling? I'm just curious.
No, it's not enabling. It's a true need that they have. I mean, if we die, would they figure it out? Sure, they'd figure it out. Okay. But it's just one of those things that you do what you do for family. It doesn't matter where they are.
Well, sure. We oblige this obligation,
which is probably why we still live in Illinois instead of Tennessee. Yes.
Yeah. What is here's another tradition that I'll ask. What is it about Tennessee that all Illinoisans think they need to live there?
Have you hung out in Tennessee much?
Yeah, I've been to Tennessee.
I love Tennessee. I don't know would I live there. I don't know.
No, you wouldn't. But otherwise, you'd live there.
It is. It's a beautiful place. I mean,
sure.
It's
sure. Chicago's a fun city to visit.
Yeah, right? As long as you don't mind dodging bullets.
Not a good place to live, to me, right? That's what. And Shannon says Tennessee is gorgeous, but it doesn't matter. When I grew up in Iowa, nobody ever said I want to move to Tennessee.
Nobody ever said I want to move to Iowa,
right? But here in Illinois, 9.5 out of 10 people that I talk to, I'm going to move to Tennessee. Yep, even if you're passing through Illinois. Yeah, no, we're gonna go down and look at the property in Tennessee. And I'm just like, what? Tennessee is a lovely narco-ridden state. It's beautiful to visit, right? Yeah, and people around here, taxes. I mean, anywhere you go around here, anybody's property taxes are good. Shayna says, when my relatives came to town, everyone knew to clear any commitments to entertain them. Can't, cramped my 13-year-old style for sure. Yeah, there are those traditions too. No, 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 clear it out. Here comes.
Oh,
him.
we loved it when the city kids
Oh,
came to visit because
sure.
I mentioned this before. They did all the chores and they loved
Mm.
milking the cows and feeding the pigs. You know, it was a daily drudgery for me,
Sure.
but they just loved it. You get to put on those boots and walk in pig shit. Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm surprised the two of you would want to move to Tennessee and not back to Nebraska.
I would go to Nebraska in a heartbeat, but we've got 9 grandchildren up here. We've got 3 in Texas. So if we ever left here, we'd probably wind up in the Dallas area, just because family does have that.
That pull for you.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting.
My big brother's struggling a little bit health wise back in Nebraska, so I'll probably be taking some time to go visit him.
Traditions on a weekly, daily, personal tradition that you may have. I think they help. I think they get you through. Why? Because if we call them a habit, habits are dirty. Smoking's a habit. You never hear good habit. You hear bad habit.
Brushing your teeth's a
Right.
habit.
That's a routine. If it's good, it's a routine. If it's
Oh.
bad, it's a habit, right? And tradition makes us feel good. Tradition makes us warm and fuzzy. But tradition says, oh, this has been passed down and passed down and passed down. Well, tradition is just something that you do traditionally, right? That's why it's called thus a tradition. The way that you put on you put the same sock on, right? You start with the left foot or the right foot every time you put a sock on. You don't switch it up. That's a tradition, right?
I don't wear socks. No.
Right? Hey, go back. We called it superstitious, right?
Right.
But understand, when you were an athlete, you had traditions that you did before every game, before every meet, before whatever, because it made you feel good. Mentally gave you a bit of an edge, perhaps. So traditions aren't necessarily bad, right? But because it wasn't maybe something that was passed down generation to generation, we said, well, that's just superstitious. Doesn't matter which leg you put in your pants first.
Well, the singing of the fight song at at athletic events. I don't know if you remember your high school fight song.
Oh, I couldn't tell you the words.
Yeah. But ours, now we're from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Not a lot of water in Nebraska. We were the Sutherland Sailors.
Well, there you go.
And Anchors Away, the Navy's theme song, was our school fight song with a few different words put into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
around here you'll hear a lot of on Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the traditions, the school traditions.
Yeah.
The every year we did things a certain way. When you get a new coach in, and coach would try to break or start new traditions, and he'd always have a battle on his hands.
I mean, growing up, in Burlington, Iowa, the tradition. I mean, Friday night, that gym was packed. It was a tradition. It was basketball. It was awesome. And the tradition was you sat in that tunnel until that fight song went off, and then you came running out to the fight song, which was incredible. Just that feeling like oof, as a sophomore on the varsity, I always wanted to be first out of that tunnel. Like, let's go. As a senior, I wanted to be last. So it was always it was interesting to watch. And do basketball players still wear dress clothes to games? It's been a while, but I thought that was a cool tradition.
Our teams, even in 6th grade, it's either dress up or a day where they wear their uniform jersey. They all wear their uniform jersey, but they all do the same thing. But they still do dress nicer now. Is it a shirt and tie? Not so much, because dressing nicer today is a pair of jeans without holes in them and a shirt that has a few buttons on it?
If I can get, if I, I don't see that. Once you get into college, you're wearing the sweatsuit they give you or whatever, the jogging suit, whatever you want to call it. In high school, it depends on the coach, depends on the program, depends on the players. But a lot of times, because the world is weird, right? So the tradition growing up, when you and I at an away game, everybody showered.
Oh yeah, without
Everybody,
question.
or at a home game was done, shower, boom, that was it, right? Today, no,
No.
not you walk out in your sweaty uniform or whatever. Now, back in the day, the tradition was no, you just leave your uniform hanging, and the school had it washed, got it done.
The
equipment manager.
I forget if it was Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Yeah.
or Walton, but one of the two of them was telling a story about Coach, and he said that they showed up for the airplane without a tie on, and Coach sent them home.
Yeah.
And didn't take it. A national ranked player, and he didn't show up with a tie, and Coach sent him home and said, if you can get to the game, you'll play. And the plane took off without him.
Yeah.
And he had to find his own way to get to wherever the game was.
Well, back in the
play.
60s, everybody wore a tie. I mean, you cleaned up for dinner.
Yeah.
You put on clean clothes to go eat dinner. That was just that was tradition back then. And yeah, I mean, today's tradition is a lot. Oh, I can't. I think the thing that breaks tradition is excuses. You know what I mean? Oh, well, as a team, we can't dress up because there might be. It's the word "might be" that changes and stops tradition.
Yeah.
There might be a family who can't afford nice clothes, and we don't want to make that individual feel, left out or strange.
There's a part of my wife's family that runs in the upper circles, and we were going to meet. I think it was a memorials, or it was something at one of the country clubs down close to Evanston, somewhere down in that area. Well, we get there, and I wore a shirt, right, but no tie, no jacket. And walked in, and the maitre d' guy is like, "So you cannot come in here without a jacket and a tie." And I'm like, "Well, I don't have a jacket and a tie, and I'm pretty sure that my wife's uncle will be pretty upset if we don't get in here." "Well, sir, we are able to
loan you or whatever. Yeah.
So he took me in, and he put this god awful tie and a jacket out of the 30s
Right.
on me that looked like, Chevy Chase on, So I walked in, but I had a jacket and tie, the ugliest jacket and tie on the planet, but I had one.
That's great. Yeah, I was at, Drew, one of the owners of DDOE, and I went to the Sandler Group's annual holiday party. 350 people, a lot of tech people there, and so we're there, and I went khakis and a sweater. I didn't know, I went khakis and a sweater. Well, most of the people there, sport coat, t-shirt, blue jeans, shoes. They all look good. I mean, everybody looked good. There's some people there in their suits, some people there in Christmas suits that sparkled and twinkled, and so it was a plethora. It was a really cool event. But just to take a look at what people now consider, I asked, I'm like, "Hey man, is this a suit and tie gig, or is this a sweater khaki type gig?" And Drew's like, "I'm just gonna wear a sweater, so whatever." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He went blue jeans and a sweater. And I don't own a pair of blue. The only blue jeans I have are overalls. I didn't think overalls were the way to go. So, but I was just like, this is
fun and interesting. And the other tradition that's out there at those parties is, hey, open bar, how drunk can you get?
That's right. Let me try something I've never tried before. Let's have some
Yeah.
vodka, some
Oh.
tequila.
And people by the we were there from 5 to 9. We left at 9, so we left it early. But it's just funny just watching people, and you're just like, what in the world are you doing? You're in public, right? You're with other people that are key partners or whatever. You're just like, man alive. That's a habit. That's a habit, of course, that it was fun because this year I challenged myself to not drink any. I haven't had a drop of alcohol all year, right? Not a beer, not a shot, not wine at communion. It's been nothing. And it's fun to watch when you have all your faculties and wake up the next day and go, all right, I feel good. Shayna says, when I came to Huntley, the entire town participated in a snake dance, quote unquote, as part of the homecoming festivities. I'm pretty sure liability issues killed it, but seriously, the entire town linked hands and ran through bars and yards. She says it was absolutely crazy. You're in public, right? Yeah, right. Those people drinking, no kidding. And it was, and that's at that place as the night went on was when I enjoyed mask mandates. As he drunk idiots are spitting and slobbering, you're just like, oh god, ugh,
So at the on December 31st, is your commitment to alcohol stop, or are you just done?
I don't know. I'll play it. I'll play it. I'll play it day by day. When you run a race and you get through that finish line, your race is done.
Right.
Right. Now that's why I say I'm not going to challenge myself to another year. What'll happen is what'll happen. But I don't feel the need for any alcohol. I've tracked and watched and felt how alcohol really swells joints, and it's nice to wake up.
Basically poison.
Yeah, it's nice to wake up without a headache. It's nice to wake up without feeling sick. So bloating or making my double chin a triple chin. Yeah, there's things. Might I enjoy a glass of wine with a meal or something? Yeah, absolutely, right. But until then, the race isn't race.
And the reason I ask, I made a
Mhm.
commitment when I went to the officer candidate school. It was a 14-month program that I wasn't going to drink for those 14 months at all, and I didn't. But the night we graduated, the race was over, and the next morning I felt absolutely terrible. And I'm like, what have I done to myself? And since then, I'll have an occasional beer or maybe a glass of wine with Frank and Christina if we're doing a paint and sip. But it was, that break was what I needed. And
I don't, I don't know. I don't know if I started a new tradition. I mean, that I don't know, right? But what I do know is I don't go places and drink just because that's what's happening there,
right?
Like at that party. Oh, hey, well, okay. I guess instead of coffee or tea or water, I'll have a scotch. Do I miss a nice glass of scotch? Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes it's just nice to sit and sip, and but no, I don't know.
I have never missed a glass of scotch, but that's just me.
Oh,
we're in the last minute, folks, and thank you so much for coming down, hanging out, and making us part of your Monday morning tradition. I think that's it is important to us to make sure that you're out there and that we can, in some way, shape, or form, entertain you.
Listen, you don't have to look far for us now. Just go to Apple Music. Go to Apple Music, punch in 216 and then you can listen to us live all day long. Go out to TuneIn Radio all day long. Share, like, spread. Follow us on Twitter at studios _216 at studios _216. Our shows will be popping out live there all the time. So just to follow, share. We enjoy having y'all with us. And as much as we hate to say
Ball guys at a
has
microphone.
become a bit of a tradition for us here.
Amen. So this is Tim Stewart. I'm Coach Pop, and I do approve this message. Now it's time to get off the bench and get back in the game.